Holy smokes. Texas. Can you believe it? When's the alarm clock going to go off? One at Texas, bro.
The NASCAR fan base can rejoice as Chase Elliott is back in victory lane. But how did the 19 get there? We'll break it all down for you. You're watching NASCAR Inside the Race presented by Consumer Cellular. Todd, 42 races. That was the winless streak for the 9 car of Chase Elliott, but he goes to victory lane. What did you think of the crazy race down in Texas?
Yeah, crazy. 16 cautions and a drive forward. A lot of guys on edge. We always talk about wanting these drivers to have show their talent. They definitely did down there.
It was tough to pass. Track position was a premium, but that's really NASCAR racing as a whole, in my opinion. Competition is so tough. So let's break it down. Let's talk about the 9 car and his day. Didn't qualify great, didn't really have track position, but then an early call by his crew chief and a timely yellow made all the difference.
Yeah, I thought Alan made a great call there, and I think he referenced it afterwards that it was right on the edge of having to call him to pit road. They went long, got the caution at lap 52. That cycled him from 20th up into the top 10.
Yeah, so that's basically right here. This is where he starts. He goes up with that track position. And then if you look at the rest of the day, now look, there's a lot of water under that bridge. It was a complicated day, but he ran inside the top 15 for the majority of the day. That does so much for your car. It allows you to not only have track position, but you and I talked about this, adjustments. Your driver can make sense of how the car is driving nearer the front. And then I thought Chase from behind the wheel did everything he needed to keep it once he got that track position.
Yeah, definitely. You can tune on your race car better. Your driver can give better feedback. I thought this race, Chase Elliott put together a stellar effort of being aggressive. He took advantage of those cautions. There were a lot of them, and when he could, he took advantage of them, got himself in position.
Well, if you want to talk aggression, let's just jump right into it. This was the move. This is lap 234 inside second row coming to the restart, and as we play it forward, leaves a little gap, just enough that NASCAR doesn't have a problem with it, rolls to the rear bumper of the 45. We talked about Richmond, Denny Hamlin going early. What was he protecting against? A move like this.
Yeah, definitely. He's got a good push on him. And really, I think, Tyler is just worried about the 11 car, doesn't give Chase enough credit for how aggressive he's been all day.
And that move works at Texas, especially with the reconfiguration. That entry into one is as wide as can be, especially driver left.
And the double dog leg opens the racetrack up and just kind of generically to it. So there's room for it, and you're going slow enough, you can just about run through 1 and 2 wide open, even with that low entry.
You have to get good brakes, no matter how good your car is. The 9 car got one in stage 1, then got a next good break. So he takes the lead 3 wide. Denny Hamlin passes him back. This is a lap 259 on the restart. Denny Hamlin to the left, Chase Elliott to the right. We drop the green flag. Denny gets a good start. Chase gets a good start. Now, eventually, the caution comes out, rules Chase the leader.
Yeah, it's one of those situations where Denny picked the right lane, and by the time he got to turn 3, eventually that bottom lane works out. But here, the run through 1 and 2, Chase gets a good run on him and gets his nose just ahead of him. I think it ended up being 0.02 of a second at the timing loop.
So we've paused it here because we're going to take a look. If you can, that is the caution light that's illuminated. We're going to get into the rules later, but just a quick reminder, we're racing to loop lines, not the time of yellow. So why does that matter? Well, we know the caution's out. So if we back this up, and it's a long ways. Keep going. I'm looking for the 11.
Still not seeing the 11. Still not seeing there. The 11's nose is just starting to eke forward there.
Yeah, so basically, let me take a look. That's the 11 nose just to the inside. We can't tell who's in front of who. But I'm going to play at full speed from here all the way to the yellow. Somewhere in this area, there's a loop line, and that is what they will score back to.
Yes, and it ended up, from what NASCAR said, 0.02 of a second. Very, very, smaller margin of victory than we had at Atlanta earlier this year.
So that gives the 9 the lead. Yes. That's kind of the first step. Now you have to defend the lead, and you have to do it on multiple restarts. The first big battle was against the 11 who he just passed. I think the best view perhaps is outside right here. Chase Elliott, a little late in the zone, gets a nice restart here, gaps himself to the 1 of Ross Chastain, which helps protect into 1.
Yeah, definitely puts him in a position where he's not protecting the bottom. He can just run the line he wants to. Again, you're going to see Denny Hamlin hanging to his outside here. He's going to get the run off turn 2.
He gets a great run. Unfortunately for Denny Hamlin, the 1 of Chastain doesn't. I question right here if the 1 could be closer to the back bumper of the 11 if he couldn't push him past the 9.
And definitely if he's there, then Chase is in a position to side draft him, because as he would, the 1 would be dumping air onto Chase. So this allows Chase to be aggressive with 11 and break Denny's momentum coming forward.
Yeah, it pulls right up to that quarter panel, dumps the air on the 11 spoiler, kind of slowing the 11 down. Now for the 11, he has to stay on the right side of the 9, or at least the quarter panel on exit.
He knows that the race is over if the 9 gets the bumper clear of his nose, and he just gasses it up, carries more speed than he really wanted to, just to stay in that position, spun his car out.
Yeah, I mean, Denny Hamlin just doesn't wreck on his own. He just knows to win the race, he has to stay on that quarter panel, and that's what he was trying to do. But either way, that gives control of the race now to the 9 of Chase Elliott. Now he has to defend the 1 of Chastain. So as we take a look, this is lap 270. The 9 this time doesn't quite get as good a restart. The 6 right on his rear bumper.
Yeah, definitely on his rear bumper. Look here, gets him crossed up there, crossing that second double dog leg, but gets him far enough out. He's got control of the race.
So control, one thing, but it isn't the final attempt. So then we have to go all the way. This now is the green-white checker. I felt like Chase either got a little better start or the 6 of Brad didn't get as good of a start, but he had a little bit more gap there heading into turn 1 on the 6.
Yeah, I don't think that you can see it there. He's got a 3 or 4 foot gap there and just puts together a great lap here to get himself clear of the 1 car and out in control.
Much like the 11, the 1 kind of gets that run down the backstretch, gets to the outside of the 9, and this is going to look like a replay all over again. The 9 moves up, very, very tight, but pulls the 1 back. And unlike the 11 who wrecked, the 1 breathes the gas, and once the 9 clears the 1, it's kind of game over, victory lane for the 9.
Yeah, definitely at the end of the day, and that was the race-winning move with the 1 car.
Yeah, it's hard to believe that the pass for the win ended up being a yellow, very timely yellow on a restart. But like I said, everybody has to get some good breaks. Good break for the 9 car.
It's why you race every position every minute, because you never know when that break's going to come.
Hey guys, I'm Corey the Joy Driver, the number 7 car, joined my buddy Ryan Flores. Every week we stack some pennies. Talk about NASCAR Cup Series right out of my windshield.
Plus, we'll give out the dogs of the week for the best pit crews and pit crew guys from the weekend. We'll break down all the money stops, all the woes, get into some technical issues, and we'll also answer all of your hashtag Penny for Your Thoughts questions.
And we have a ton of guests. Sometimes SVG pops by. We got Raja. We have all sorts of guys. You never know who's going to pop in the Nonsense Garage, but make sure you tune in. SiriusXM on Tuesdays, YouTube on Wednesdays, wherever you find your podcast on Wednesdays as well. Come stack pennies with us.
All right, rules, timing rules, scoring rules. In the end at Texas, the pass for the win was really a race to a loop line and where it was scored under the yellow. So let's talk about this. When the yellow is thrown, there are 2 sets of rules to determine the running order. One set is used the entire race. Another set is used when the finishing positions pay points. So the last lap of each stage and the last lap of the race.
Yeah, it's definitely, NASCAR has a computer system that keeps track of when the transponders cross loop lines. They've got segment lines. Basically, short track racing, it's going to go back to the start-finish line.
That's, I think, what the fan forgets, because I know no one likes loops. They want it to be a camera every time, but let's just remind the fan. If you go to your local Saturday night track, your driver could be leading in the middle of 3 and 4. When the caution comes out, you come all the way back to who was leading at the start-finish.
Yes, and that backs up. So what NASCAR does is they break the racetrack into multiple segments. So the same transponder line that they have at the start-finish line, they have, it's not marked, but it's buried within the racetrack. They know where it is. When the caution comes out, the computer freezes all the cars and where they've been to the most recent loop line. They go back and revert to that. And that's the piece that kind of times them back. So we're not going back a whole lap.
Right.
We might be going back 200 yards.
Picture start-finish lines all across the racetrack.
Yeah, probably 6 or 8 of them in a mile-and-a-half racetrack.
The last one you crossed under green is where you're going to be scored. The other part to that is, that's for everyone who wasn't in the accident. Mm-hmm. If you were in the accident or avoiding the accident, you have to maintain reasonable pace. What is that? It's not a mile an hour. It's not a specific pace. It's different for every track, every wreck, every track condition. NASCAR, think of it this way. If everyone getting through the wreck is going about 70 miles an hour and you have to go 20, you're probably going to lose positions. If you gas it up and run at 150, they're probably going to not be happy with that because it's unsafe and they can also hold you positions.
Yeah, so it's just, that is a place that you have to interpret. You have to have some judgment of what the situation is, but I like the fact that we've got lines, and that happened mid-race. That's actually how we changed the leadership of this race.
So let's talk about that. The 9 of Hamlin leading, the 11 of Hamlin leading, the 9 of Chase Elliott running second. This is coming to the restart around lap 259. At this point, the 11 has really had a good car. He's kind of controlling the race. The 9 also has a good car. We've seen the inside lead into 1 and work in 3 and 4, but the outside kind of works on the exit, and this is what happens right here.
Yeah, if you look at it, the 9 gets just ahead of him right here, and he's got, 3 feet on him? You see when he checks up there, that's when the caution comes out. So at that point, you've got to look back somewhere within the time that the 9 car got his nose out ahead of the 11 to when he started to check up. There was a timing loop in the racetrack.
Yeah, the loops aren't painted on the racetrack, so we don't know where. But it's very clear to me that, so if you say about right there, the 9 and the 11, at least for my eyesight, are next to one another. The 9 has the momentum. So he is leading the 11, leading the 11, leading the 11, and it's, the yellow comes out, both cars lift off the gas. So at some point in that moment of time, the 9 was leading the 11. The NASCAR doesn't even look at that. These two right here are generated by the computer. They just look up and the computer tells them who's leading.
Computer freezes all of the loops, and they just come back forward with who led at the last loop. The 9 car, and I think it was 0.02 of a second. Very, very small, similar to what the Xfinity win margin was.
Another great way to look at it is the 9 of Chase Elliott. Let's go on board with him. And if we come around here, we're basically going to look for this caution light. So if we go back, let's see if we can find the 11 right here. Okay, so once again, it's hard to tell, but here's the 11's nose. So we're going to say they're really similar to kind of in line. And if we're going to pull forward...
And the 9's got momentum coming by him.
Correct.
So at this point, I'd say we're nose equal, if not the 9 out front. And we've got all of this corner before we get to where we see yellow lights.
Yeah, I'm still going. I haven't seen a yellow light flash. Still haven't seen a yellow light flash. Right there you go. Off in the distance, there's the yellow light flashing. So that now has said, what's the last loop line? Right. You have passed over green flag conditions. That's what we're going to score you to.
Could have been 2 feet back, could have been 200 feet back, but somewhere in that margin there was a loop line, and that's what dictated that the 9 car was a control car for the next restart.
All right, that's during the race. Now it's complicated a little bit more. Let's talk about the end of the race, specifically Texas again.
These are different situations. NASCAR, the rule book's set up that way. The end of the race will definitely, NASCAR will use all facets they can to put the race together.
So now we aren't going to go back. It's now an absolute instant moment of the yellow. That's going to determine the race winner and other positions. Same caveat applies. You have to maintain a reasonable pace, which we will get into heading to Talladega. But let's talk about the finish of Texas, because the 9 clearly was leading. No question mark there, right? But the 24 and the 6 get scored differently at the end of the race.
Yes.
24 gets into the 1 spins out, the 24 goes to the left, the 6 comes and passes them.
Yeah, the 6 has momentum. You see a fair amount of momentum here coming forward. And if you look at this point right here, they're equal with the 6 driving forward past the 24, and as you circled out, no caution light at this point.
I would like to be able to pause it when the caution lights come on. It's not really in this, but I'm with you. If I back this up, right, and roll it forward, the 6 is passing the 24, no caution lights yet, and then as they go out of frame, it's clear to me that the 6 is going by. He ends up finishing in front of the 24. Another great look at it is kind of head on. While you can't say who's in front of who, you can see the 6 is all the way down on the apron trying to get by.
And if you look at this here, again, there's a camera, or there's a caution light back here. It's still not illuminated. And NASCAR will go to all of this and all the angles and even to their SMT data to sort out what cars are in what positions. This is one that they ended up correcting afterwards.
So simple, right? That's the theory. Let's remind everybody what it looked like at Talladega in the spring. So the winner is very easy in my mind. You see Bubba Wallace blocking, the 12 of Ryan Blaney trying to get by, moves up, the 23 wrecks, the caution comes out. I don't know where, but I think it's pretty clear. It's not even close. The 8 is leading, easily leading, so I don't think there's any question about who's winning the race. But let's play this forward a little bit more. I mean, you still see, so let's just stop it right here. What about all of this mess? Look at all of that. NASCAR now has to say who was in the wreck, who couldn't maintain a reasonable pace, who got through the wreck cleanly, and that is going to determine the finishing order. Let's remember, people missed the playoffs by 1 point.
2022, Martin Truex Jr. didn't make the playoff field because Ryan Blaney did by 3 points total. 3 points total. That's 3 positions somewhere in 26 races. We could lose 5 positions in this gaggle.
Yeah, so that's what's, I know as a fan, I'm the same way. I get frustrated when I can't get the entire finishing order after a super speedway race when it ends under yellow. But this is what NASCAR is basically trying to dissect And they try to do the winner first. Once they do the winner, they almost pause everything else and take their time to get every position.
Yeah, well, you get the winner so that you can have the victory lane celebration. Get that sorted out. But then the long time it takes to do this, just being thorough and making sure you get the actual running order the way it needs to be.
Well, Todd, we have seen that timing and scoring challenge play out at Talladega when the race ends under yellow, trying to get back to the checkered flag. Let's take a deeper dive into exactly who needs to win and who needs points heading down to Alabama.
I'm Ryan Flores. Join Kim Kuhn and myself each and every week at Around the Track. We'll get you ready for the upcoming race weekends from short tracks to the Cup Series, whether you'll be attending in person or watching from home.
Coming your way each week is the best bets to win some easy money and driver suggestions to help pump up your fantasy lineups. Around the Track also tells you what to watch for in the NASCAR Regional Series and which young phenom drivers to keep your eye on.
Plus, our At Traction segment gives you all of the fan activities, concerts, and tailgating fun at the track. Be sure to check out Around the Track each and every Wednesday on NASCAR's YouTube channel.
Todd, we started the year with 2 speedway races, Daytona, Atlanta. It's been a little while. Now we head to Talladega. There have to be some drivers excited and some drivers concerned heading down to what is, it used to be known as the unknown, but to be honest, we've had a lot of consistent winners or bigger names, not a lot of shocking winners. I think it's kind of bound to happen one of these years.
Yeah, it is. I think Talladega, of all the speedway races, because you can run 4 wide here, handling isn't as big a deal. But it's a known. I think the speedway racers, we've got 5 or 6 of them I think we could name that we feel like will be in the top 10. It's just, who are the other 5?
6 winners already this year. There's a few more above Tyler Reddick who are only in on points, but we kind of set them to the side because these are the guys that are less than a race ahead of the cut line. Reddick has to be feeling good. Bubba runs so well there. Chastain, they have to be feeling good. But let's look at the cut line. Joey Logano sits on it, a champ. Right behind him, Kyle Busch, who won this race in the spring. Brad Keselowski, another champion at -1. And then you have a little bit of a natural break. This happens every time. You see right here, 37 points between Brad and Jones. Behind Jones has to start being concerned when it comes to points being their path.
Yeah, at some point you start to think and look at this, especially with the guys that are back there, of where are my opportunities for wins. In Talladega, for a lot of these guys that are below this line you just put up, if you roll this over to a page where we look at the guys below the cut line and take it down to 30th, there's a lot of speedway winners here.
So if you look at the second page, this is everyone in red, everyone below the cut line. This is the top 30 in points. Speedway winners, Kyle Busch, Talladega a year ago. Brad, multi-time Speedway winner. Eric Jones has won at Daytona. Austin Cindric has won the 500. Micah McDowell has won the 500. We have Stenhouse, who's won the 500. Dillon, who's won the 500. We have Corey LaJoie, who always runs so good at the super speedway races.
And by the way, who has led the most super speedway laps this year? I believe this guy has.
So of this whole page, I think I hate to even call him a sleeper. He's bound to break through. He's always at the front of these speedways. He's running really well. To do it, he has to beat his teammate. But the conversation then becomes, we can go back and forth. So if one of these guys has a chance, what do these guys do?
Well, your cut line starts going up, right? So now if I'm sitting up here, and you brought it up earlier, but so now the cut line's here. Well, if the cut line goes to there, then we've got 3 positions right here. They're all within 3 points. Back to that, we need to sort out points. You can't feel comfortable in this field.
So the question for you then is Joey Logano. Is he even thinking about +0 this weekend? Or is he racing? First, let's start with the stages. Stage 1, Stage 2. Points are awarded. How does the 22 play that? How does the 8 play that? You see 1 to go, you're 5th, 8th, 10th in the mix, 2, 3 wide. Are you worried about it, or are you just trying to score points coming in the end of the stage?
I think you're trying to score points coming to the end of the stage. And especially for the 22 team, they had strong showings at Daytona and Atlanta and came home with goose eggs.
Yeah.
Because they got caught up in it. I think that has to play into some of their strategy as well.
So after you get past the end of Stage 2 then, are anyone on this board, if you're in the front 5 or 6 cars, in my opinion, everyone is thinking trophy. Nobody is thinking points once you get to the end of the race. That's why the first and second stage are so important.
I almost think anybody has to think they got to figure out how they're going to win a race, because that win puts them guaranteed. And I don't feel like anybody here is comfortable.
Well, the only way you're going to feel comfortable is to win and be locked into the playoffs, and every driver has that opportunity when NASCAR heads to their biggest oval of the year, Talladega Super Speedway. Check out the coverage on Fox, 3 o'clock on Sunday.